All right. Good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast. It is already the 7th of December. The month is moving along. The year is moving along. Life is moving along. Hey, it's another time. It's time for another 1800 seconds with Cutler here. So if you're passing by my channel for the very first time, do me a favor and please stop. I only need about 1800 seconds. This channel is about motivation. It's about inspiration. It's about taking a look at our day, the end of the day, to see how we can show up a little bit better tomorrow than we did today. It doesn't mean that today was a flop or failure. It doesn't mean that today was bad or anything like that. It just means that we're taking the time to see what can I learn from today that will make me a little stronger, a little more successful, and a little better tomorrow. All right. So do me a favor. Go ahead. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe, and then click on that on the notification bell, so it'll let you know whenever I've gone live or whenever I've uploaded new content. All right. And typically what I've done for this past year and a half is at least to just chit chat about some quotes from my 7th book, Billboards to Better. It's over on Amazon. But I won't talk about this tonight. I'll probably share this and some of my other books with you. But what I've been doing is just really unfolding some of those quotes, and we talked about how they can apply or how they don't. But it's about riding along the highway of life, reading the signs, looking at the billboard, saying, how can I be better? And how can I arrive at this place called better? But I don't want to get there by myself. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about during this time was, how do we handle grief? How do we deal with that? Because a part of becoming better is to becoming better. It means that we become better managers of our emotions, better managers of the things that we go through in life. And one of the things that we all have to go through in life is grief. We have to deal with grief. And it is not lost on me that during the holidays are not always happy for everybody. They're not always merry for everybody. They're not always so joyful. So I wanted to talk about, how do we navigate the holidays? And while that may not come from a space of inspiration, it is a place of empowerment and encouragement, so that we can make our way through that and not even go through that by ourselves. So I want to talk about that. And what I did this time, I brought some of my friends along to chit chat with me tonight. So you will meet some of them in just a moment. But before I bring them on, I want you all to tell somebody, come on, let's talk to Cutler, because we're going to talk about how to handle grief. You all know me. I cry about some of everything, but hey, we'll talk. We're definitely going to talk about grief, but we're going to talk about how to handle it. How to handle it. I'll talk about that. I'll shout out the LTTC VIPs in just a moment. But do me a favor, invite other people. Tell them, come on, let's talk to Cutler. I promise you all, I will be right back with some of my friends right after this.
Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Okay, and one of the things that happens when that music plays, I sit here and I want to dance and I want to bounce and I want to do all of that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to do it right now, because I'm telling you, Juan composed that, but Devin sings her face off on that song. All right, and I'll see if I can bring them on at some point during the holidays, so we'll chit chat with them as well. But let me shout out the LTTC VIPs. Those are the Let's Talk to Cutler VIPs, the people, and they change from broadcast to broadcast, but they're the first 3 people to jump in the chat and start chatting. Let's see who it is tonight. Tracy Johnson says, hey, everyone, ready for the ride. Annie Cutler said, get aboard, let's ride. K Sharp says, good evening. Of course, K Sharp, you know you are definitely in my thoughts and my prayers, as well as your friend, the family of your friend who passed. And a special good evening to all of you. Listen, the last time I was here, I chit-chatted about sharing. That is a cute that song. It's a nice little jingle. And Devin is here. She's in the chat, and she's the one who really sings that. But you all, the last time I was here, I talked about how to handle grief. And as I talked about how to handle grief, I talked about it. And my disclaimer was that I am not a certified grief counselor, but I'm a human being. And like anybody else, there are moments that should or we think should be happy and joyous for all of us. The holidays, people tend to smile and it seems like they should be happy about different things. Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, Easter, all of those sorts of things. But I wanted to deal with the reality that many of us will encounter. And the reality is that for a lot of us, all of those holidays, all of those monumental moments, all of those milestones are not the most joyous. And I wanted to be real enough to offer us a safe space where we can talk about those times when, hey, it is not the most joyful thing. It is not the most joyful time. And so, those of you who are in the chat, I want to hear from you all this evening as we're talking about this. And in fact, what you all can start telling me now is how do you handle grief during the holidays? And again, I want you all to stick with me. Please stick with me because I have something special for you near the end of this broadcast. But I want to bring along a few of my friends because I want to talk about how they navigate the holidays. I want to talk about from a real perspective some of the things that I do, and I want to get their feedback and their input on it. So I'm going to bring and I'm very relaxed, but I'll introduce them to you. But just so that we all have this safe space, I'm going to sort of drop the titles because I want us all just to be comfortable and sort of sit back and say, you know what? We are a community of winners. We are a community of brothers and sisters who are strengthening each other through our conversation and our dialogue this evening. And I wanted to be a conversation, so I want to hear you all as well. All right. So start telling me in the chat what you do to handle grief during the holidays, and I'll read and I'll pop some of those comments in the screen so that we can all see them. But I want to bring on at this point, I want to bring on my friend Rashida. I'm going to add her into this stream right now. So I'm going to bring Rashida on. Rashida, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hang on, Rashida. I'm going to also bring in my friend Marvin. Good. Marvin, sir, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm
Good.
doing good. And so as you all know, for me, one of the things that I want to get across, one of the things that I want to share with the what I call them the fellow passengers, one of the things that I want to get across to them is that grief is real and uh and that you don't have to mask it. And one of the things that I also shared last week was not to suffer alone. One of the points that I suggested was that always have a 911 team, because in my mind, 911 is peace. At least that's what one of my friends' grandmother always said. 911 means peace. And so I suggested to them, always have a 911 team, a team that you can be real with and call people and say, hey, listen, I I am not in a good space. I am not doing well, and we can be honest. But before I get into the nuts and the bolts of the conversation, I want to give the fellow passengers a little background about each of you to make this conversation a little more real. Um, my friend Rashida, I brought her on because I wanted her to talk from her perspective of a parent burying a child. And Rashida, I'm sure there are some passengers or fellow friends and brothers and sisters in the chat who may have gone through that I don't necessarily know.
Mhm.
So your insight is going to be very helpful. I've had you on before on another platform, and the more as strong as you talked, and I sat here and cried like it was my child that I buried. But I'm always amazed at your strength. My friend Marvin, the how you managed to get through any Thanksgiving is just beyond me. Your father died the day afterwards, that Thanksgiving weekend.
Thanksgiving weekend, yes.
That Thanksgiving
Mhm.
weekend. So what I want to do, I want to pay respect to your daughter and your father. So Rashida, at least tell us about Raina. Do, do that.
Raina's wow, because Raina was that, when you have multiple children, so I have six plus whoever comes over. And she was the glue So she was the one that was able to pull people out of their room. She was the one that kind of supported everybody. And at a young age, that one that could talk to each sibling, they'd always side with her. She was her dad's little jewel. So if somebody wanted something, they'd send Raina to get it. We don't know why that was, but they would send her, and she would go in and smooth the road for them. She was a friend to her friends in such a way that was very different. And it took them to tell me that she was the one that kept them all together. No matter how different they were, she was the one that said, no, we're not going to bicker. We're not going to fight. We're going to be friends, and we're going to support one another. And oddly enough, after she died, probably about a year later, the year she was supposed to graduate, I received a letter from the school that she had written in one of her classes, and it was supposed to be delivered after graduation.
Wow.
And her letter was telling her friends a lot has transpired between the time we started and where we are now. I hope that we are still friends. I hope that we're still supporting one another. And if we aren't, then we should be. And so, that came maybe 2-3 years after her passing.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Now, Rashida, I want them to see your pretty face, so I want you to slide the other way. Yes.
There we go. I've been trying to figure out which way to go. I've been trying to figure it out.
There you go.
So I'm in the screen now.
No, you are fine. You're fine. And before Marvin, I'm going to ask you to talk about your dad as well. But I'm already looking at the comments. One of the things Sharon says, one of the things she does, she stays as busy as possible. A Fabulous Me says, it has taken years for me to rewrite the holidays and find how I want to celebrate and what makes it memorable and special. This year, I have started baking for the elderly. Fabulous Me, you're on to something, because the last time I was here, I said one of the things that we should do is turn your hurt into help. And I think that when you are at your low, but you bring someone else to a high, it doesn't cause your pain to disappear, but it causes your joy to rise. So I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to offer something else. And then Marvin, just before I come to you, one more thing. Tracy says, I try to think of the good times I had with those no longer here. So speaking of those who are no longer here physically, tell us about your dad. Of course, I had the pleasure of knowing him, but talk to us about your father, please.
Well, I mean, I had a wonderful father who was there in the house, helped raise me along with my mom and my brother. But my dad, I always felt like we had a very close relationship. I wanted to be like my dad. My dad would let me help him. If he was painting, I would say, let me help. He would let me help. If he was fixing something, I would say, let me help. He would fix me. He would allow me to help. And then all of the conversations, I went through a period when I was in high school where I was working part-time. And my dad used to pick me up from work at night. And so we would have these long conversations, like about a 20-25 minute ride home. And so even throughout, as we grew, as I grew older, and even when they moved to North Carolina, still had a very, very close relationship. We always talked. And so my dad was he was just a good guy. I find myself quoting him all of the time. And I do miss him. I can't say that I do miss him. But he was just a great father. Not perfect, but a great father. And none of us are perfect.
Right.
But he was a great father.
And I can certainly vouch for the fact that when you said he was a good guy, I can definitely vouch for the fact that what an icon, but a good guy your dad was indeed. I had the privilege and pleasure of knowing your father.
Yes.
So what a good guy he was. So let's talk, you all, about the holidays and how we navigate the holidays, because for some of the fellow passengers, and I say passengers because we're on the highway of life, and we are all riding along the highway. We're becoming better. But for some of those who are joining us in the chat, some of those have dealt with death recently, and many of them know I was very public about my father's passing. I have a cousin who's like an aunt. She was, and every time the broadcast came on, she was right here. And so for those who are in the chats, many of them remember my cousin Minnie, who's like my aunt. And so that was something that we all sort of navigated, or at least, yeah, we navigated it together. They helped me through that. So I'm ever so thankful. But let's talk about some of the pressures that we sometimes feel during the holidays. Talk to me about checking in with yourself, because one of the things that I offered the group last week was, don't give in to the pressure. Check in with yourself and see how you feel about events over the holidays. So, Marvin, I'll toss that to you first. Um, I know you are probably invited to, well, both of you, in terms of, because of what you do, professionally, personally, and out of your commitments, religious and otherwise commitments. You've probably get a lot of invitations to go to things over the holidays. So, Marvin, how do you navigate that? How do you deal with it?
I, I I'll start by saying this. It was a process, because at one point I would hate to see November come in. I would hate to see that, and I think we've got to be honest with ourselves that grief is on steroids when the holidays come. It's just, you really feel it, you really sense it when the holidays come. And I think if you understand that and you recognize that going in it before the holidays even get here, and start preparing yourself mentally, as you're dealing with, and sit with it then before the holiday get here. Sit with the pain, sit with what you are feeling, and then begin to change your focus. And which is what I had to do. Instead of thinking so much about what I lost, I
Mm,
began to celebrate a wonderful father that I had,
yeah.
because we all have to pass this way. So why focus on what I feel like I have lost, instead of taking the moment and taking this time of the year and to reflect on the great times, to reflect on the good father that I had in my life. And I think that's one of the things that we have to do, even as we go in and approaching the holidays, is take the focus off of our hurt sometimes, especially during the holidays. Now, any other day you can feel your hurt, but because it's so rough during the holidays, take the focus off of your hurt and celebrate the life of that person that you lost.
You
Or
know
I
what?
or I would say transition.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I would say transition.
Right. Well, what amazed me, you said something that gave me chills, and I just sort of sat up when you said that grief was on steroids during the holidays. And I think you're absolutely right, because people have an expectation of where they expect us to be. And because we are not at a place, and I said we, people who are grieving, they're not at a place to meet those expectations. And it adds so many other emotions. It makes you
Hmm.
think that, listen, I have to be real with myself. I'm mad because you expect me to be this, and I'm not ready to be that.
Hmm.
Uh, and you said it, that you have to sit in your truth with how you feel. And that's why at the time I put what Sharon Walters said. I also write down what I'm feeling, my truth. We have to deal with our truth. Rashida, what about you in terms of how do you deal with just the pressures of the holidays, and what pressures other people might put on you and
You
their
know,
expectations?
the hard part is having other children in the process of losing one. And so that's very difficult, because those expectations are very different in that perspective, because they're expecting the holidays to go on like the holidays have gone on.
Mm,
They
mm.
need a sense of normalcy, and it's very difficult if you can't give it to them. I think yesterday, and I might get emotional, so I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Yesterday was the first time I looked at my son and I had to apologize and say, I am so sorry that I have been so disconnected for the holidays. And it was because I finally bought, for the first time, a real tree, and I started trying to decorate it. And that was Raina's thing. I didn't decorate trees. Her and her best friend, that's what they did. They enjoyed that, and my youngest daughter. And I realized I'm horrible at decorating trees. It looks like Charlie Brown in there. I mean, it is absolutely horrible. And I tried to put on Christmas music, and I'm trying to create this new normalcy. But it was very difficult. My first holiday was Father's Day, and I sat in church when the fathers were recognizing their children, and the children was recognized, and I cried like she died that day.
Right, right.
The pastor had to come off. You know, he was like, "Are you okay?" You know, I'm in his office and he's pastoring me, and church should go on. He's like, "Well, can I go preach?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go preach." But the reality was, it's very difficult to get through those holidays. So for me, I had to learn that it's okay for me to do something different. Easter, I don't cook anymore by myself, because trying to cook the things that she enjoyed for the first time, I found to be very difficult. So now I ask my children, I said, "Hey, I need you to help me." So I've taught them each to do something to take the pressure off of me, so that I don't have to go figure. So I don't have to do it all myself. So I've given them something to help change the narrative of what the holidays are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but lessen the burden that it can be.
Right, Rashida, I think that's powerful. Someone else just said that earlier about having to rewrite the narrative, and I think um, the reality of it, my friends, is that we do realize it helps us, or at least it helps me, and I want you all to um, weigh in on this as well. Creating sometimes new traditions, because we have to. One of the things that I said last week, the last time we was here, was that we have to um, we have to be present for those who remain.
Mhm.
We have to be present for those who remain. And I think, and I can say this about both of you, Rashida. What amazes me about you, and you often say, was that Cutler, I still had to be a mother to other children. Um, and it doesn't mean that your grief was any less, but I'm I'm chuckling because you said, "Listen, I don't know how to decorate a tree." So so Rashida, for you, you might want to create another tradition and just give that to somebody else and let somebody else do it. Um, uh, Marvin, what I'll say about you, some may or may not know, is that you pastor. And so having to grieve, having to deal with your grief while pastoring, each of you in your own respects had responsibilities to others as you were grieving. And so one of the things that I shared with the group the other night was, be there, be here for those who remain. And that means not just out of responsibility, but out of the fact that they want you. And tell me what y'all think about this. That the ones who are still here in your family, in your circles, they want you to be happy. They want you to be whole. They want you to be well. Um, and so to the extent that you can, be that to the extent that you
Mhm.
can, because I often say it is no disrespect to the people who are no longer here for me to be happy today. I think that anyone who is not here with us in the physical would still want us to be happy. Um, would you agree with that?
I agree.
And so then you have to deal with that, almost like, mm, it's almost like that survivor's remorse and the guilt of remaining. Like, I wish I could exchange places, and is it okay for me to be happy although they're not here? Is that going to make me you all help me. I'm just trying to process, you see what I'm saying?
Well,
Yeah.
I would say learn how to manage your hurt, because you're going to hurt, and yes, there are other people, and you have other responsibilities, and you don't want to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, especially at family events and things of that nature. But you have to learn how, I would say, manage your hurt. So you have to take those times those moments when you are hurting and be okay. But at the same time, know when it's my time where I can just let it all down. If I want to cry, then I can cry. But when is the time I need to put my feelings or my emotions aside, not denying them. I'm just putting this on pause for just 1 minute to get through this so everybody is fine, everybody is comfortable, and then I can get back to myself. That's management.
For
So
example, to preach a sermon to a congregation or to parent more children. Go ahead, Rashida.
Yes.
Yeah. So when Raina passed, well, first of all, with my kids, I used to do this thing all the time. If they had a bad day, didn't get accepted into something, and they were moping around, I would say, hey, you can lay there for 3 days. You can be in that space for that period of time. And so I looked at him and I said, okay, you've had one for the Father, one for the Son, and one for the Holy Ghost. Time to get up. So when I was right after she passed, I was in the bed and I just couldn't seem to get motivated. And they all came in and they said, okay, you've had one for the Father, one for the Son, and one for the Holy Ghost. So let's get up, let's go for a walk, let's go do something. And so what I determined is that go do something is my opportunity to put myself in a place where I can breathe and be okay. Whether it be going for a walk, whether it be reading a book, whether it be going to the spa, and they allowed me that space. But in doing that, you asked about being invited to things. I chose to go to places where people were there and could be supportive if I needed that moment. If I were going somewhere as a profession that I had to go to, I felt like I had to go to, I had someone with me who could give me that space to escape.
Good.
So I didn't go alone. I empowered the people around me to be supportive. And that's what I tell other people is that, you will never know everything that you need for yourself, but you know the things that are going to be critical. So if there's someone, I had a neighbor who lived across the street, and I had a young lady who, when she encountered me, it was always dramatic. And it would always take me back to the night that I got that phone call and the band-aids just constantly being snatched.
Right.
So whenever she would come over, I would put on Facebook, hey, so-and-so just came to visit, and the neighbor would automatically show up. And she
So
would
that was your buzzword to get.
That was my buzzword to get help. And the narrative, the conversation would change, the topic would change, it would get lighter. And so I encourage people during the holidays is to find somebody who can be that buffer for you, and be honest with them about, what you need. If somebody's asking you questions that you're not comfortable answering, if somebody wants to force you to do something that, saying no is hard to say no to right now. The reality, Gregory, is that people think you should get over it quickly. I don't think you get over it. I think you just start learning to go through it better, that you learn to ride the waves better, that you learn to surf differently. But you don't get over it. You just go through.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that, but I want to be respectful of the audience, because what I want to do, I want you all to give me. I'm going to pull up some of their comments, and I want to talk about them. But I do want to get back to that. Do you and Marvin, you can think about that too, because Rashida just gave me her input. But I'm going to ask the question later. Do we ever heal? Do we ever heal? Because I think, and every time I'm on this platform, I always come with an offering. And my offering to all of us tonight is the same thing that it was the last time, and that is the power to be kind to yourself. That no matter how you navigate the holidays, when you are grieving, be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up for grieving. Don't beat yourself up for feeling the way that you feel. Don't beat yourself up for recognizing that there is no rule book that tells us how to navigate this. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. And so that is my offering to us this evening, the power to be kind to ourselves. I saw a comment from, let me see, it was a comment from Devin Clements that I want to bring that up. And Devin says, the worst thing that we can do for ourselves is to deny the true feelings we have. I've learned to allow myself to feel what I feel, if only for a few minutes. Would either of you like to chat or say something about that comment? I allow myself to feel what I feel, if only for a few minutes.
If that goes with sitting with your emotions, sitting with how you feel, and to me that is therapeutic. That helps the process because you're not denying how you really feel. So it's a part of that sitting going through. We can't just brush it away, because if we brush it away, it's going to come back 10 times as strong the next go round. So you've got to sit with it.
And I agree with that. That and from my own personal experience, I spent a lot of time just trying not to feel at all.
Hmm.
That in order to take care of my responsibilities, I could just chuck it up to a bad day and move on. And so when somebody said, "How are you feeling? Is everything okay?" "Oh yeah, everything's fine." And then when I get home, I'm a mess because I didn't allow myself to just
Hmm.
deal and process it. So it took a long time for me to tell people today is not a good day.
Mhm.
I love it.
So
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
very difficult for me for a while. For 3 months, my doctor kept me off work because I couldn't seem to feel. I
Okay.
wouldn't allow myself to go through that process.
Okay.
And when I finally did break, I was on a bench, and all it took was a young lady in front of me who did not take what was given to her. She was ungrateful,
Hmm.
and I thought, if my child were here,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And that was
Hmm.
the breaking point for me at a place and a time when it wasn't appropriate
Okay.
because I refused to allow myself to feel for so long. I thought that that was protecting me when in actuality, it was hurting me.
Oh, so let me jump in here and say that to both of you, because what I just heard from the two of you, if we don't sit with how we feel, do you believe then that we can sometimes have misplaced aggression and misplaced emotions?
Oh, no
Yes,
doubt about it.
it's self sabotage.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What about then? I want to put this as Sharon says, I write down, and I put this early, but Sharon says also I write down what I'm feeling, my truth, which seems to be what some of you, what both of you are saying. Fabulous Me says this. It is a way to share memories and stories of family and open so many. I think she means conversations and connections here. So sitting in your truth and doing those sorts of things, it opens the door for us to have those conversations and make the connections so that we can have that 911 team, to be honest with. And Rashid, I
Mhm.
think you said something a few moments ago about um, uh, having someone along with you to give you the space to give you a place of escape. But I want to ask both of you this though. um, I know I know that sometimes within certain communities and certain cultures, professional help is frowned on. Sometimes, certainly, and we can share this. I have a diverse audience, but within our culture, sometimes things like therapy and counseling and all that stuff is frowned upon. Would you all say that that is a needed service that people should take advantage of? Let me hear from the two of you.
I'll say absolutely, and I have referred and suggested to several people, especially during the loss of a loved one, go get some help. Sit down, talk with someone, get it out. Let someone help you to navigate through this and navigate through through your emotions. And I did the same thing. I had to sit and talk. There was some behaviors that I created as a result of missing my father and not really dealing with it. So, but it was through sitting down, talking with a therapist, talking with my counselor to help me kind of navigate through those things and get things back into the right perspective.
Okay. Rashida,
So
can you buy in on that as well?
certainly. So here's my truth. I probably still should be in counseling. I didn't go for a while. Then I started, and then I stopped. And I will tell you that it was because the work was hard. It was hard, but it was needed. And I don't think it's one of those things that you only go to for a minute. It may be that you go a couple of times and you feel okay, but then a year later, Your kids go, "When the last time you saw a counselor?" When the last time you talked to somebody? Um, but I find that it does help. It does help tremendously. I have two of my oldest daughter is a psychologist. So everybody should be in therapy according to her, no matter what. And people like myself, and probably Pastor McCoy as well, are harder people to counsel because we counsel other people. And so we believe we've already done all the stuff that we're supposed to do, and what else can you tell us to do? But the reality is, it gives you a safe space to say everything that you can't say to anybody else.
Hmm. Wow.
Um, I can't show certain levels of weakness or that kind of pain because everybody can't take that kind of pain. Everybody can't help you through that type of discomfort. And so you can't share all of that with your friends and your best buddies because they don't know how to help you. Um, and so it's important
I
to have
want
the
I want
safe
I want to
space
jump
for
in.
that.
Rashida, I want to jump in there because I think that's a powerful statement that a lot of times friends don't realize that. So when you said that everybody can't help you at that level, everybody can't take that pain, because sometimes people will say things like, and they mean no harm, but they say, well, why didn't you just come to me? Why didn't you say something to me? But many times it's about, who do I feel like I can trust with this level of emotion
Hmm.
right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thankful that my good friend Marvin is here, because when my dad died, he was one of the few people that I knew that I could trust with that level of emotion, because
Hmm.
with everything that we all do, people have their own perceptions of us. Um, and and maybe I should be in counseling right now too. But but it was a
Yeah.
matter for me of saying, I need someone that I can just open up to and just say, this is how I feel. And so for me, my good friend Marvin was definitely, and not just as my pastor, he is my pastor, but not just as my pastor, but also my friend for 30 plus years. One of those people that I could just say, here is this level of emotion, because his dad passed years before my dad. Um, but and Marvin, I say this to you, I was challenged because I knew what I was going through, and I thought, if I put this level of emotion on him again, is it something that he's going to even want to deal with? And so I think a lot of times when we're grieving, we're asking ourselves, is this something that this person is going to want to deal with? But I think it helps us all again to build that community. I
Well,
want to go
can I
ahead.
just can I, ju- I and what you said is true, because yes, you do need other people. What I like to say, where there is no condemnation, there is no judgment.
Yes, yes,
But at the same time, sometimes the best place for that is talking with a therapist, someone who is trained, someone who don't know who don't know all of your life, and some things that you don't know about them. For as where you may be hesitant to talk with me, but to go to a counselor, you may just unload, because you have no connections, you don't know anything about them. So yeah, I think you need both.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I what Sonia Bailey says, you just have to keep living, and fortunately, I know the stories of some of us, but Sonia, thank you for that. And we recognize that there is no manual to this, but it is a matter that we have to keep living for many times for ourselves and for others. Um, Terrence Newton says, so true. I had a moment recently where I sat with a feeling of sadness because of my dad's absence, but I had family around that helped me shift that feeling to appreciation. Marvin, I think you were saying the same thing. I think you and Rashida have been alluding to that, saying the same thing. Having people around that cause us to keep living. I want to pull a few more comments because McDiner says, don't be afraid to ask for help. Wow, certainly things that we have talked about. Rashida, looks like there's a message that comes out here for you. Praying for your strength, my friend.
Oddly enough, and I had to see that. I've been weepy all weekend. Y'all forgive me. But oddly enough, when you say, for me, that circle of friends is very different, Gregory. I think my circle. Yeah, most of my circle anyway. But it's almost like they are always kind of right there on time. You can't tell everybody everything, but I can assure you, I can tell each of them one thing and they all got it all, if that
Mm.
makes sense. So I
Hmm.
know what I can tell Valerie. I know what I can tell Sonia. I know what I can tell them without breaking down. We had a friend today that all of us called her within an hour and none of us had a communication with each other. And her response to me was, "You all talking about me?" No. But I know that having that type of connection and friendship where people know that what you're going through, who you are, and how they can be supportive in their own way.
Hmm.
Everybody's not going to be supportive in the same way.
In the same way.
You know
That's
what
why
I mean?
I
You know,
do.
Sonia's not going to give you a hug, but when Sonia gives me a hug, I know my girl got me. You know what I mean? I
I
know that
do.
there's something there, and she knew that it was needed at the time that it was given, if that makes sense. So
Yes, your
you
your
might not
circle
have
knows.
one, but you may have a circle that supports you in that way.
Yeah. I'm going to pull in some other comments. I love that, Rashida, because you said, and you tell enough of them and they all have the whole story.
Mhm.
Tracy Johnson says, you never get over it. Just find
Mhm.
ways of getting through it. Because I think I asked before, you know, do you ever heal? Hang on. I think I make a clue with that question. But hang on. Linda Martin says that our church, and you all still put in this stuff. Those of you who are chatting, put this in because these are things that perhaps people hadn't thought about. Linda Martin says our church holds grief workshops, which I have once attended, and sometimes you just have to see if those services fit you. They don't
Mhm.
always fit you, but look around and take advantage of some of those opportunities. Marvin McCoy, here's a comment from someone who has a name like your last name like yours. And that person says, Vita McCoy says, when you lose a loved one, you gain a new roommate whose
Mhm.
name is grief. You must make a room for grief in your life and all that it brings. You adjust to its presence and learn to live with it.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that. Isn't it true? And I think Marvin, you said that earlier. You have to manage the grief. Rashida, you both of you all are saying the same thing. Let's talk specifically about the holidays because um, one of the things that I know that people deal with, Marvin, as you said, during the holidays, grief is on that roommate. Thank you, Vita. That new roommate that you will always live with is on steroids because um, I think everybody's hope, the greatest hope in life is to be remembered. We live, most people
Yeah.
live so that we can be remembered. We do the best we can when we do it because we want to be remembered. And love never dies. And because love never dies, our love for people, those who have transitioned, that love never dies. And so I believe then that we have to deal with that love for the rest of our lives. So many times we are grieving for the rest of our lives. It's just a matter of how do we manage that? How do we build that? Vita, I love that. How do we build that extra room or that place to manage it? Because you are going to love your daughter for the rest of your life. You are going to love your father for the rest of your life. And so that love that you have, not had, that love that you have is going to last for the rest of your life. And so I believe just as we have that love, we have to realize, so let me be honest, it doesn't stop during the holidays. I don't get a chance to put it on the shelf during the holidays. It's just a matter of managing managing that. I want to ask because I'm usually only here for 1800 seconds, but you all thank you all for sticking with me. Right, Vita. It is a new reality. I'm going to put that there. Vita said it is a new reality, your new reality. Juanisha Harris says, I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I want to ask you all this. If you had to give 2 or 3 points for people to manage their grief during the holiday, what would that be? And as you're thinking about it, I want to put something up there because Rashida, there's something that you're doing, and I think it's just so amazing. I know with everything that's happening with the pandemic over the past 2 years, you didn't get a chance to have. Last year, you had you held a sort of hybrid version of the gala that you usually hold, and so I think this would have been the eighth annual
This would
gala.
have been the 8th.
This would have been the eighth annual gala, and because you're not doing that this year because of this pandemic, this Delta variant, the Omicron variant, you're not doing that. I do want to, my friend, put this link online because this foundation that you have established. This provides scholarship opportunities. This provides scholarship opportunities in the name of Raina and her friend, whose middle name was Hope.
That's correct.
Yeah, whose middle name was Hope. And so you've turned that grief into a way of your hurt is now helping others. So she did not ask me to do this. It's just because I've known her for all of these years that I'm going to ask my fellow passengers and brothers and sisters that if you all can provide any type of contributions or what have you to her foundation, it would do my heart glad. Again, she didn't ask me to do that. I just wanted to do that. I wanted to do that myself. So then, let me see. Raining Hope, and thank you. Yes, so I got that. But Marvin, what you can go back and forth. What would you say to people in terms of just navigating the holidays with grief?
Well, number one, and I think someone talked about it. I'm not sure. I think you talked about it a little earlier. Is knowing your triggers. You've got to know. You've got to know your triggers, and then I think for me, what helped me is doing something that I enjoy doing, and things that I know that gives me peace. Doing things as far as working, that didn't work for me because I'm already busy. I'm already doing things. So what really helped me this year was Vita and I got a chance to get away. We got away right after the day after Thanksgiving. And so just to sit on my balcony, look at some water, beautiful water, and just to reflect. But my reflection this time was a little different than what it was in the past. I went back through my childhood and remembered all of the crazy and all of the fun things, the wonderful times that I shared even with my dad, all the way up till um, the days before he transitioned, and some of the things that he was saying even before, and so it brought a smile. So doing something that you enjoy and something that you know gives you peace and put you in a good mental place, I think that is one of the best things you can do.
Hey,
Again,
hang on to that. I love that so very much. Because you're right. The whole notion of, and I did share that, knowing your triggers, and I actually called it knowing your triggers and knowing your tickers, because
yes,
your triggers, if we can be honest, and El Masima, thank you so much for joining. I think this may be my first time seeing you, but thank you so much. What an honor it is to have you with us. And you said you lost your mom in July. It's hard. And my friend, one of the things that we're sharing is we're just giving tidbits to help us all through this, because one of the things that helps us, Musima, is to have a community,
yes,
and not to do this alone. So thank you so much for showing up. My good friend, who's also here, another friend of mine, Troy David, says, I remember when your mom died, you said I had to get professional help and still need it as well. Absolutely. So Marvin, someone said with respect to the water that the ocean has it has healing powers. I go to the beach almost every day.
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe so.
Yeah, but know those triggers. Know what Rashida and Marvin and I were talking about this earlier. Know there are things that are going to trigger you. If your mom always bakes sweet potato pies, that's going to trigger you just to smell, the taste, the thought. If your daughter decorated the Christmas tree, seeing somebody decorate a Christmas tree or a Christmas tree, it could be a smell, a scent, a
Mhm.
sound. You may not be able to do anything about it, but know your triggers, because that way you're prepared, like, okay, I know this is going to happen. I shared something as silly as this. My father, when he used to visit me, daddy brought a bar stool, and he would sit at the kitchen sink right there, and he would pivot himself from the kitchen sink to the stove, and he would turn and he would cook. And that stool is still here in my house. It is a trigger for me. And some days I sit on it and cry, but I know it's a trigger. And but I know my tickers, what keeps me ticking, what keeps me moving, what keeps me moving along and marching. And so, Marvin, that's why I appreciated your answer so much. You knew what it would take for you to keep moving, to keep ticking. Rashid, I think you said it earlier. Sometimes you have to know, maybe it's just I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to breathe. And I got to be transparent. I told them last week, I'm not that I'm trying to promote any habits, but for some people, they say, listen, I just may take a glass of something to just calm me down. Now, I'm not promoting alcoholism, but really, so you have to know your triggers, but also know your tickers. What can I do? Because a lot of this, would you all agree, sometimes it's really self-therapy. It is knowing myself enough to know what makes me well.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So Rashida, talk to me about something that you would say to the audience in terms of a point that you would leave for them to get through the holidays as well.
Give yourself a license to be happy. Somebody told me once happiness was overrated, but joy is not. Joy is always with us. But so yeah, we have the joy of the Lord, but sometimes we don't know how to be happy. Um, I remember once I was laughing, and I don't know what was going on. I don't know what holiday it was. It wasn't Thanksgiving or holiday. It was probably Thanksgiving because that was our favorite holiday. Um, but I was laughing. I was really having a good time, and then all of a sudden, I felt horrible about having a good time. I felt horrible about being happy because how can you be happy and your daughter is not here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I basically lost two daughters because my goddaughter was her best friend, and they
Right.
were here all the time. And so how do you smile? How do you do that? And you have to give yourself a license to be happy. And when someone trespasses on that, you have to be able to move them out of the way and arrest them. And so I would say, give yourself a license to be happy, but arrest the behavior that makes you sad.
Ooh. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I hear that legal background coming out. But along with that, one of my tickers, one of the things that keeps me ticking, is music, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But allow yourself to be happy. There's something that I call with being okay with dual emotions, which means during the holidays, any given moment I might be happy, and the other moment I might be sad, and they may try to mess with my mind at the same time. And I said last week, no, it doesn't mean that I'm a lunatic, but it's just the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys of emotions. And that's what happens. And a lot of times when you're coming down off the mountain, when you're coming down off the mountain, uh, off of a high, or you're in a low, those emotions will sometimes do this, and they meet, and you have to deal with both of them. The positivity of the holidays, but the negativity of how I feel. And we have to deal with both emotions. Doesn't mean that you're a lunatic, doesn't mean that you're bipolar or any of that. It means this is the reality of my space right now. And give yourself permission to deal with both of them.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, um, Juanita says, my triggers right now just happened and I feel sad and miss my dad, but I remember all of the funny things he did and his laughter and and his bad jokes. And Juanita, I'm going to post this, my friend, and just share this because yours is the reality. And I think we want to create this space that says it's okay to feel all of this. It is okay. And I think one of the things that I'm hearing Marvin and Rashida say is just give yourself a license to feel what you feel. Get to know yourself a little better through this process, um, so that you can be okay. Marvin and Rashida, there's one person who says, Tracy Johnson says, thank you, Rashida and Marvin, for sharing. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That comes from Tracy. One of the things, and I'm going to let us all go because I'm usually not here this long, but one of the things that I said last week, you all, was there's a proverb, and I believe in this proverb: they never die unless we stop calling their names. And I believe that we have to be okay with calling the names of the people who are no longer here physically. It is okay to talk about Dad. It is okay to talk about Raina. It is okay to talk about the elder Pastor McCoy. It is okay to say all that. It is okay to talk about James Cutler. It is okay to call their names because they live on in the earth through us. And we never want them or their memories to die. So what I'm going to do, one of the things that one of my tickers, what has kept me going. I know when my dad died, Marvin is a prolific musician and songwriter, and his music kept me going even through the death of my father. Marvin, my friend, I want to impose on you. I asked. I hope I gave you enough notice before the broadcast because there's a song that you wrote, and I hope you can share that with us. But as we're doing that, those of you who are in the chats, because I believe that they never die as long as we call the name, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to light a candle, and I'm going to light this candle in memory and honor of all of those who don't necessarily live here on the earth anymore, but they live through our hearts. And so I've lit this candle for in memory of all of them, and in honor of all of us who deal with the lingering love. So I'm not going to call it grief. I'm going to call it the lingering love that we have for them. So maybe what we can do this holiday, just maybe, rather than calling it grief, let's just call it lingering love. Um, and I want to thank all of you who have joined the chat. Can you all again just give my friends thank you to my friends Marvin and Rashida for being here. And Marvin, I'm going to ask you if you can share with the audience and the fellow passengers what you shared with me, a song that you shared with me during the passing of my dad.
Thank you, Gregory. I appreciate it. I actually co-wrote this song with my good friend and brother, William Beckton. So this is just a little bit of it, and I hope it bless your heart.
Sure.
I hope you can hear it.
Okay.
Though the storm clouds rise and strong winds they blow, and you feel that you are left all alone. I don't know why the track stopped playing, but situation has you bound. No solution can be found, but every pain he feels and every cry he hears. So stand through your storms. He'll keep you from all harm, 'cause he's in the midst midst of it all. No matter the test, great or small, although we get weary sometimes, we are never left alone. We are never left alone. No, 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 no. Because he's in the midst of it all.
Marvin McCoy, stop right there. That is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. And I had to stop you because because I will cry. Yeah, and someone asked, and I was just getting ready to put this. Someone said, "Are you on iTunes?" Marvin, please tell them. Let me just put these up here. Beautiful song. Thank you, Cutler. Stay safe, everyone. Sing, Pastor. Thank you. Please tell them where they can find your music, especially your, I mean, I just have to put the stuff they're saying, your music and especially like your latest project. Talk about your latest project.
Latest project, a single entitled "You Can Make It." You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, all of the digital platforms. You can find it on all the digital platforms. That particular song right there that I just sung, I'm not sure if it's on iTunes. If it is, it may be on one of William Beckton's earlier projects. I haven't even looked for it. I'm not sure if it's on iTunes or any of the digital platforms. But I've had songs recorded by several different people. So thank you. I appreciate. Thank you for. I wish the track could have didn't act up tonight. Maybe it just sat for a long time, but nonetheless, just remember that he's in the midst of it all. And Cutler, just to add to that, I believe not only that the Lord is in the midst of it all, but the spirit of our loved ones, those that we have lost. I think that they are still here with us. They're inside of us.
And Gregory,
We
just
have to be reminded of that.
as Pastor, I agree with that 100%. But I also have found, and I'll leave this here, that the things that I've gone through have blessed so many other parents who've lost their children. The conversations, the ministries, the things that God calls upon us to do. If we fall apart and don't allow ourselves to go through this process, we're no good to the other people who might come behind us. So I thank you for doing this, because it does give a voice to what I believe God has for me to do. So I don't turn down these opportunities, especially if it's a grieving mother, because I know how important it is to know that you're not alone.
Wow. Okay, I tell you what I will do. And Marvin and Rashida, I'm going to ask you all to stay. And what I will do, Marvin, you and I can talk, and we'll if I find that link, then I'll make sure that I put it. I post it later on for this particular song, but also I'm going to post information as to where they can find your music as well. Those of you who have joined us this evening in the conversation in the chat, thank you so very much. And of course, as we navigate the holidays and deal with this, what I call lingering love, my prayer is that we will strengthen each other. That something that we've said this evening, that we find strength in it. We find strength in community, and let's continue to do that. Don't navigate the holidays and deal with this emotion by yourself. Don't. Be true and honest. Be kind enough to yourself not to punish yourself as you go through this holiday. Please know. Let's just keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Join me here. I may continue the conversation Thursday. I'm not sure, but join me here live at 8:00 Thursday. I'm not sure. I might do giveaways of one of these books for the holidays. I'm not sure. I might do it. I'll let you all know. So join me Thursday. But again, in all seriousness about this conversation, I think it's a very needed conversation. So Marvin, thank you. Rashida, thank you. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Keep your heads up. Keep your hopes up. as well. You all stay safe, stay sane. Please know that from my heart to yours, and to yours as well, Rashida and Marvin, there is and always will be so much love. I have to put this up there only because of who she is. Annie Cutler says, thank you, Rashida and Marvin. Pastor Marvin, I'm so glad I got to meet your father. All right, I'm going to say good night to all of you, Marvin and Rashida. You stay on. And so good night to all of you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.